Hi, this is Laura coming to you from my very special mobile office here. I have been asked to read my new book out loud, so I'm going to do this right now. You'll see it's a very quick read, and it has three parts. The first part speaks about how the book came to be. The second part is the book, and the third part is the conclusion and the solution to the book. The book is called The Disease, how this little book came to be. In October 2020, I boarded a plane to Mexico for a 9-day reconnaissance trip. I needed to know how it felt to be down there during the pandemic. I wanted to sense the energy so that I may make a decision about going back a few weeks later for an extended stay, something I had intended to do 7 months earlier, the same weeks that the borders partially closed. I took a COVID test and I was on my way. A friend met me on the other side, ready to guide me on a string of adventures. It was so good to arrive down there. As the pre-election mood was heating up in the US, after days of smoky air, the loss of my 14-year-old cat, a 6-week bout of shingles, the closing of my beloved ballroom, and the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I had not realized how heavy I had been feeling. The warm air, the smiles, the ever-present music, and the prospect of days away from it all with my own personal guide felt like delicious freedom and a reminder of what normal used to be. What a gift. Waking up to the sound of roosters after my first night there, I had a meltdown. All of a sudden, I wanted my own space. I didn't want my schedule to be tied to another person. And if it was, I wanted that person to act differently. I wanted more blah, blah, blah. I wanted less blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know what I wanted. But I didn't want this. I was exhausted. With the help of a good dose of some typical Libra calm, I was offered the possibility that maybe my nerves were shot, and also that I may have some internal stuff to look at. What? Also, that it might be a good idea to go snorkeling, to let the sea do its thing. It did. Trying not to release/weep in my snorkel when the bright little fish swam underneath me, I allowed the rhythmic echo of my breath to be all I knew. I let the warm water hold me, and I let the afternoon sun soothe me. Out of the water, I was a little embarrassed and also shocked at my emotional fragility. The next day, I was hiking in the jungle on my way to a river when it started to talk to me. How to explain what I mean by that? How to tell you about this thing that happens to me regularly and yet still manages to surprise me? This thing that has me share jokes and conversations with my grandmother, now gone for almost 30 years. This thing that tells me to pick up a pencil and start doodling at an odd moment just to create the perfect logo for the Center for Happiness, completely effortlessly. This thing that wakes me up in the middle of the night, seconds before my daughter texts me from the other side of the world, needing to hear my voice. This thing, this precious, precious thing, this thing that I invoke to guide me over and over again, and which does. This thing that we all have, just at a different volume. This thing started to talk to me mid-jungle hike, which was super inconvenient, especially because I knew it would not stop until I paid attention to it. It was dictating to me. Or rather, it was ping-ponging with my ego in a duel that was asking to be recorded, without any wiggle room. I tried to bargain a little. I will write it all down later. I promise, really. Nope, it would not have it. And this is how, for the next 5 days, in buses, in rivers, in bed, on gorgeous hikes, on suspension bridges, and in remote makeshift restaurants, I would quietly pick up my phone and record the insistent one-liners. To be clear, they did not show up out of nowhere. They showed up as wise and calm counterparts to my unwise and agitated ego. I would be surrounded by magnificent scenery, including, I think, the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And bam, my fearful little ego would puke up a gem of sorts. Seconds later, occasionally even overlapping, the dictation would show up. Just a few words, no big loud thunder, just a very clear understanding that I would record it. So I did. And this little book is the faithful transcription of these words that showed up and would not go away. Now, I know that the concept is not novel. This is not something we have not heard before. I even tried to tell it that on the first day, thinking that maybe we could just forget the whole thing. But no, no pass. More of a, thank you for your opinion, now please record this. Also, when I look at each short sentence, I think that maybe they need more fluffing up, more explaining, more development. Then I think, what kind of book is that with just a few words per page? And then I remember that all these questions might just be part of the disease. And how funny is that? Oh yes, the disease, the title of the book. I did not make it up. That came with the first dictation. I tried to argue with that also. Like, the disease, really? Do you think this is a good idea right now? I mean, the theme is being pretty played out widely, you know? No budging, no fudging. The disease it is. So here you go. I trust that there will be something for you in this little book. Maybe someday I will add to it, maybe I won't. Either way, I'm sure I will be notified of what wants to happen. Possibly while I am riding a donkey down some canyon, who knows where. Blessings to you, to all of us. Blessings and kindness and compassion to our tired nerves and our fragile minds. Blessing to our tender hearts and blessing for all the ways that we are scared and all the ways that we let our fears talk louder than our love. Blessings for our daily dance with the disease and blessings for all the ways in which we allow ourselves to heal. Love, Laura. Okay, so the main part of the book is really simple. It's one prompt per page, just one prompt per page. And each prompt is pretty powerful. I think now that I reread it, again, I just came home and made the book from the notes that I had. All right, here we go. The disease compares. The disease compares what was with what is. It asks us to compare ourselves to other people too, and to compare ourselves with former, other versions of ourselves. The disease does not let us accept the gift. The disease makes up stories and does not question them. The disease makes us feel needy, insatiable, and difficult. The disease does not easily quiet down on its own. The disease builds an opaque, seemingly unbridgeable veil between us and joy. The disease inserts painful memories in the middle of the perfect present. The disease whispers to us about scarcity. The disease wants us to believe it is us. The disease wants us to believe it's here to protect us. The disease informs us that we are different, unique, alone, not understood. The disease assures us that we need more blah 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 and less blah blah blah. The disease causes us to crave compliments, but does not allow us to let them in. The disease makes us view things through the lenses of pain and comparison. The disease pulls us away from the perfect right now and asks sharp questions about how it compares to the past. The disease pulls us away from the perfect right now and asks questions about how it might or might not continue in the future. The disease throws triggering images at us during perfectly peaceful moments. The disease points at faults regarding something which does not need to be fixed. The disease causes us to manipulate and test over and over again. The disease interprets words, thoughts, gestures, signals. It is always looking, checking, observing, wondering. The disease makes us doubt. The disease causes us to have opinions and then to have opinions about having opinions. The disease tells us that we know better than others. The disease causes us to judge others, thus soothing how hard we judge ourselves. The disease assures us that people should change. The disease murmurs to us that we are broken. The disease persuades us that we deserve more. The disease reminds us that we don't really deserve this. The disease wants us to trust it, and it will throw at us all kinds of reasons as to why we should. The disease strongly suggests to us that if people don't read our minds, then they do not love us. The disease informs us that we need another person to tell us we are beautiful and smart and worthy. The disease warns us that we must hold back in order to not get hurt. The disease assures us that different is scary and dangerous. The disease makes us focus on what someone might be thinking instead of how we might be feeling. This one feels particularly big. The disease assures us that people are paying attention to what we say, what we wear, how we look, a whole lot more than they really are. The disease seduces us into making plans for the next moment in order to pull us away from the current one. The disease asks us to quantify and make absolute statements, decide that something is the best or the worst. The disease shrinks us as it pulls us away from our power source. And now here is the end of the book, which addresses 2 weird antidotes to the disease. 2 weird antidotes. Besides hoping that these short sentences might be useful to someone else, the process made me painfully aware of how much the disease was part of me, had its teeth in me. It was humbling and it was wearying. At moments, it was almost unbearably loud, and so I asked once again, really I begged, I remember really begging, to be guided in getting better, in getting back to now. Please, please let me be. Please, please let the thoughts stop so that I may enjoy what is. Please allow me to receive the gift, please. The healing potions that came my way, the antidotes, surprised me. You see, I'm used to being gentle with my dysfunction, and I encourage my clients to do the same. Talk to it as though it was a toddler, I often say, kindly, patiently, and with compassion. The treatment that was sent to me had none of that. Instead, it was brutal and rather unpolished. Downright rude, actually. I was kind of shocked, and you might be too. But hey, I'm only sharing with you what came my way, okay? Also, it came in English, which is too bad because I think these words sound better in French. I had 2 options. The first one showed up the second day. The second one showed up a day later. By the 5th day, radio silence. The makings of this book were sitting safely inside my phone's recorder, and I was able to spend the rest of my time relatively present. When a flare-up arose, I would use one of my 2 weird antidotes, and pretty quickly I was back to enjoying the multitude of gifts that surrounded me. Way cool. Note that both of these antidotes are sentences. The way I use them is that the moment I felt the disease use its voice to take me away from the present moment, I would think one of these 2 sentences, and whoosh, I was usually right back to now, pretty instantly. All right, antidote number 1, shut up. Said/thought forcefully. Occasionally, shut the F up. Yeah, not kidding. Immediately followed, and this one is weird, immediately followed by God loves me. I'm guessing you could substitute the God part with something else that feels soothing to you. For me, the combination was powerful, like a big glob of Dawn liquid detergent on a Thanksgiving plate. Gone, bam, back to the smooth and shiny present moment. Antidote number 2. A series of strongly thought out now, a mantra of sort, like smudging a room with a wand of sage. I would think my now a couple of times, and what do you know? I was back in the now. Now, there's one thing I want to add to this, my own voice on the matter. It's important to note that none of these thoughts is the real problem. The problem is their repetitiveness in our life and our inability to control them. It's as though we are being thought as opposed to thinking. It's automatic. It's a default. And it happens away from our knowing, our attention. And that's the problem. In the end, maybe the purpose of this book is to pull the curtain back on the disease, to bring it to the table and have a little talk with it, to say something like, hey you, I see you, and I see that you're pretty savvy and all over the darn place. I see that you like to operate in the dark and ruin the sweet moments of my life. I'm not liking this too much, you know. So yeah, I just wanted you to know that I'm paying attention and that I now also have a couple of antidotes you may not like much either. Something like that. All right, I said I would write it, and I did, and now I am sending it out into the world to finish doing whatever it started on a dusty Mexican jungle path. With love, Laura. Written in Anacortes, Washington, November 12th, 2020. And that's it. It's a sweet book. I can't really say that it's my book, but I am trying to be a good steward to it. So if it speaks to you, listen to this. Also, you can order it on Amazon. And yeah, sort of a strange thing, but it must have been important. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.